Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us. We're a very, very special episode of Post Hoc Live. I'm Drew Armstrong, the executive editor of Endpoints News, and your host today. The holidays are here, JP Morgan is fast approaching, and even more important is our annual tradition here at Endpoints, the 2025 winners and losers list. All year, we have been keeping track of who is up and who is down in biopharma. Hours of debate, rigorous analysis, extensive peer review have culminated in what we consider the definitive source of truth by which to measure the industry. You can tell by my hat just how seriously we take this. So today I'm going to be joined by some very special guests from our newsroom who were instrumental in helping put together our list this year. And if you're joining us for the first time, hello, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and Happy Holidays, however you choose to celebrate. Post Hoc Live brings you the reporting, the analysis, the debate that usually happens behind the scenes in our newsroom live to you. If you're with us on YouTube and you're not already following us, make sure to hit that subscribe button below our feed to get alerts about future live streams. You can also sign up for the Post Hoc email on your Endpoints News subscription page. So here's how this show is going to work. I'm going to be bringing on a rotating group of Endpoints reporters. We're each going to share how we thought about this year's winners and losers. If you have not checked out the list, it just published. It should be in your inbox. It's on the front of our website at endpoints.news, and we'll stick it in the chat on YouTube. It's also on our social feeds. And then the rest of us are going to weigh up with a thumbs up and thumbs down. We may have a couple of wild cards throughout the day. I hope you'll have fun with us as well. This is always meant to be a tongue-in-cheek, a little bit cheeky, a little bit sarcastic, and try to take stock of the year. If you are with us on YouTube, you can join the chat and join the conversation with us. And if you miss us, recordings will live on YouTube, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. So I'm going to kick things off with Kyle Lahusik and Lele Wu. We are going to begin with some of what I think was probably one of the biggest M&A stories of the year. This was the battle over Metsera. Now, I mean, I'm a believer that, Pfizer won this deal battle, but the reality of this is that we're not going to really find out who the winner is here until we see some of the monthly data that ends up coming out of Metsera and see if Pfizer got what they wanted for their money. But Kyle and Lele, I mean, walk me through, how you guys thought about this deal. Kyle, I know you followed along with this very closely in the middle of this process. Who do you think ends up in a winner here? And what do you think Pfizer is hoping for as a bit of a holiday present out of this thing?
I don't know. I think Pfizer's pretty confident. They said earlier this week they're going to start 15 trials next year in obesity. So I'm assuming they've seen some data already that's given them confidence. And I think they've kind of scared away some of the other pharmas who might have been shopping around for some obesity biotechs. So I think that also gives them a leg up.
Do we think Novo ends up being a loser here? I mean, I think, they lost the deal, but, I think maybe the jury's still out on whether it was a good one to win.
Well, there's plenty of biotechs for them to go shopping for, so maybe they'll find another.
Lele, your contribution to the list, we have two, in some ways, competing biotechs, Summit and Biotech, in the oncology space. Do you want to walk us through your picks there?
Sure. Well, we have our first ever two-time winner, potentially, which we talked about Biotech. They won last year because they showed that they could kind of do things that aren't just mRNA. They built out like a cancer pipeline, and did some deals with ADCs. And this year we picked them as a winner because of the PD-1 VEGF race, which has been a lot of fun to report on. And they did that huge deal with BMS for up to 10 billion, I think it was.
Yeah, that was a really interesting asset trend. Yeah,
kind of, a huge phase 3 program to test this drug in all sorts of kind of big cancer indications. And it seems like, they really think that this drug will be the next wave of immunotherapy. And I guess one point on that, I think last year people were kind of like, oh, is the immunotherapy wave kind of over? What's next after Keytruda? Is there something next? Roche dissolved its cancer immunology group. And then this year, it feels like it's like very much back in the picture.
Yeah. And the flip side of that was Summit, right? I mean, everybody thought that they were like standing alone with this, Keytruda killer, and it feels like it's been a little bit of a reality check this year.
Yeah, Summit's had some stumbles this year. They had that kind of mixed readout. They didn't show a survival benefit. And they haven't said anything about like what that FDA filing status is. The FDA said that they wanted a survival benefit. And they also don't have like a big partner like BioNTech does. So they're stuck running, the trials that they can fund by themselves.
All right, Kyle, we have talked about China all year, and we have Cambridge and Shanghai on our list. Where do we stand for either one of those this year?
Well, the China R&D hubs are definitely a thumbs up. Cambridge is a thumbs down. I was just reading this morning about $1 billion lab project in Cambridge or Boston near Fenway that's being put on hold. So I think it just goes to show how little that there's happening going forward there. But it's kind of a good segue from the Summit BioNTech conversation, because BioNTech bought Biotheus, the China-based biotech, for like 900 million, and then immediately turned it around, I think like 3 months later or something like that, for I think it was over $1 billion upfront. So they basically recouped everything immediately, which is crazy impressive. And it's part of, I think, 90 licensing deals between China-based biotech
It's just
and
crazy
US
how
and
much,
European pharmas this year. So I feel like I'm learning about a new Shanghai biotech like every single day.
Yeah. All right, Lele. I love asking you about small molecules. And so I think everybody knows where this is going to be. It's been like the year of the pill. We've talked about macrocycles, small molecules. Why are pills, baby, the winner, one of the winners this year?
For people who don't know, that was a Parks and Recs reference. Go look up the GIF yourself. But yeah, it feels like pharma has like swung back to being really interested in pills as like cool science. Whereas maybe in the past 2 decades, biologics have really like been the up and coming and then like the thing. We had like Merck with their cholesterol lowering pill, which I think just got the FDA voucher. We had J&J and Protagonist, and their psoriasis pill, and all of those rumors about that buyout, which seem to have died down. And I think there's just like a whole slate of kind of these interesting quote unquote oral biologics, in case anybody pushes back on my biologics pun. I do know that
You spent our full pun allowance for the remainder of the year with that one.
But yeah, I think the industry is really interested in how they can take these drugs in these like big chronic disease areas that are injections and make pills instead, because they're easier. Patients seem to gravitate towards them versus doing an injection. So
and then last on one of the ones I wanted to discuss with you, Ryan Cross, our reporter who's been covering CRISPR and the custom CRISPR story all year, he's typing away on a final edition of that story as fast as he can, so we can get it out the door by deadline. But we did want to talk about custom CRISPR. I mean, because I think this has been, Lele, as you have chronicled amply, I mean, it has been very much, if you were a gene editing company, like it's been this kind of year. But we saw some really interesting uses this year, baby KJ. What do you think that tells us about where this is all going, and where the use of, not just CRISPR, but other gene editing technologies might take us in the future? Are people starting to figure this out, or are we, is this kind of a winner for a small subset of patients and people who have access to this, and we haven't quite figured out the rest of it yet?
Mhm. Well, first I want to say the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, the hospital that treated baby KJ, they actually sent us a video earlier this week of baby KJ walking, which is so cute.
I mean, I have to get
Uh,
two green thumbs up for
so
that. Yeah, it's
yeah,
very, very,
yeah.
very cute. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, baby KJ is one instance, and I feel like a lot of the field is kind of like holding its breath and waiting for the FDA to really lay out like how they plan to speed these treatments forward with the quote unquote like plausible mechanism pathway, which I think a lot of people are excited for, but it's not really quite clear yet right now on how that will
Yeah.
happen and how others could use such a pathway.
All right, let's wrap it up with you two. Kyle, what are you hoping for Biotech Christmas as you head into the new year? What's on your wish list?
I want a mega merger at JPM. That's what I want.
All right, I want one for you too. Lele, what about you?
I don't want one at JPM because we have enough to do.
It has been busy. All right, thank you guys so much for joining us. Next up on the show, we have Andy Dunn and Lydia Ramsey Flanzer. Andy is our biotech correspondent. Lydia leads our health tech coverage here at Endpoints and writes our amazing and writes and edits our amazing health tech newsletter. Lydia, I want to ask you about the drug compounders because I feel like this has been such an up and down story over the last, many, many months where, at one minute, they're getting sued by the pharma companies. The next minute, they seem to be doing really well and building these businesses. The drug compounders and the telehealth companies that go direct to patients, are they winners or losers this year at the end of the year? It might be different next year.
Okay, so we put them as a winner, but I might have considered them a loser. So
Go on.
it's tricky. I think there were points made, and Drew, you helped shape this, of how they were winners. You know, it's pretty interesting to think about. I have been fascinated by this compounding uptick since this started, maybe during the shortage of GLP-1s. um, it was kind of creating like generic pressure for a drug that's still branded. And I think it really changed up the environment. We're still seeing a lot of people using compounded GLP-1s. It's really hard to get numbers around it. So I think in that respect, it's a win. But yeah, it's definitely been a harder year for compounders. Shelby Livingston on my team just reported yesterday that Empower had stopped operations in one of its facilities. Empower is one of like the bigger compounders. They're being sued by Lilly right now. So it's a mixed bag, but I don't know. I think on the whole, I see the point of winner because they've fundamentally changed the drug industry to a big
Yeah.
degree.
Well, I mean, and on the flip side of how drugs get actually get to patients, I believe we have Walgreens as a loser this year. And like, woof, what a I don't know, man, it's been tough out there.
I know when we put this one in, someone was like, "Wait, I think Walgreens has already been on it," and so fair. That's true. We haven't put them on it by name yet, but it hasn't been a good few years for Walgreens.
Tough out
I
there for
think,
retail. Yeah.
yeah, real tough for retail. Right when I started, I think that's when they changed over their CEO, and then yeah, to think that they were once $100 billion company in 2015, and then when the deal happened, it was for $10 billion. That's a wild ride.
Yeah.
So yeah, rough out there for Walgreens. End of a century-long era as a public company.
Andy, I came to you, I believe, 2 days ago, and I said, I feel like we have to have an obligatory mention of AI, since that's what we say around almost every event, and I force you to try to come up with something new and interesting, and you always do. And so, will you explain our AI loser this year?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's one that made the final cut, but I would say I'd throw on my list for the AI world virtual cells. As a term, I think there was a lot of people I talked to that said 2025 will be the year of virtual cells. This is going to be a thing. turned out to not really be a thing. I think we ended the year with this competition wrapping up at an AI conference where there was a debate around sort of hacking on the leaderboard for certain metrics that make virtual cell models, and this debate if the deep learning methods even are any better than traditional stats. So, maybe 2026 for virtual cells. We'll see.
Well, and I think you and I also talked about kind of this was the year that a lot of big, vague science projects kind of had their unfortunate demise, or I think were greeted
Yeah.
with skepticism. We saw, Arena Bioworks go down. I think as I mean, it is an AI
Or one
story.
out.
They told us, our investors who promised us $500 million said, well, we can make more money if we just put it into AI. And we've seen a couple other, you wrote about the models versus molecules race. It feels like this has been a year in some ways of a flight to practicality in a lot of different spots.
Yeah, it turns out you can't just throw money at science and claim your Bell Labs. Uh, we're going to file that under unsustainable business models for the time being. I think that's fair to say. If you're AI, if you're not AI, it still remains really, really hard, but you kind of need to run a business if you're going to be a business.
I think another unfortunate loser, every year you run a big, huge analysis of hundreds and hundreds of publicly traded biotech companies and look at pay. And one of the things we took a look at this year was how female CEOs have been doing on pay. You want to run us through that? Because the answer is, not as good as I think everyone hoped they would be.
Yeah, this is one that is probably not surprising, but expected in that it's relatively grim overall. But it is the holidays, so there's a shot chaser combo almost to this, which is that yes, female CEOs are still only about 11% of the biopharma industry. When you look at about 700 public companies, we're going to see Emma Walmsley lose her or leave her spot at GSK at the start of the year, who is one of the biggest women leaders of the industry. I think the chaser to this is that the few women who were in charge, they just crushed it with some of these exits. A shout out to Sarah Boyce at Intracellular, Sharon Mates, Blueprint Medicines, Kate Havlehand. They all closed major M&A deals, each took home golden parachutes of their own around 60 million. So they did very, very good financially in both for their shareholders and businesses as well. So kind of a shot chaser there for you on that front.
And I feel while we're talking, pharma and deals, Eli Lilly, I felt like it would almost be, trite to put them on our list. But, briefly, the first $1 trillion market cap pharma company, not quite trading that high anymore. But, it feels like we had to tuck that one in right at the end there. All right, Andy, what are you hoping that the AI biotech industry, what should be on their Christmas list this year?
Man, I think just the stuff that's working, you want to just see that pace of progress stay the same. So I'd look for something like the protein design space, really productive, fast-moving 25, but there's still these questions of what is it actually good for in terms of de novo design? I mean, I think it'd be cool to see very specific examples of de novo design proteins getting very close to the clinic with target product profiles that are fully unachievable with all other methods. And very clear examples of saying, hey, here's something that conventional biopharma practices cannot do and are unable to do. And here's why, AI is worth all this hype. So hopefully we see some progress on that front.
And Lydia, what should be on Health Tech's New Year's resolutions?
Ooh, resolutions. I like that. To have strong businesses that can go public. That's the tried answer. I think a resolution.
Biotech needs that too.
Right? Yeah. It could be nice to make money. Yep, that would make sense. I think a resolution I'd like to see this industry come to terms with is I find that a lot of companies I'm covering are leaning in, especially this time of year. People love to think about longevity as a kind of almost rebrand of like get healthier, lose weight, start of the year, go to the gym. I've noticed that that's been a thing the past couple of years, but more so lately. A lot of companies I'm hearing from say they're longevity companies. A resolution I hope they commit to is telling me what exactly, no good. But it would become good if they told me exactly what that means. Is this just like a rebrand of primary care? Is this like, what exactly are they trying to fix? It's a little nebulous at the moment, and for fair reason. I mean, you don't really know if your longevity treatment is working until decades later, right?
Takes a little while to find out if you lived
Just a
longer.
little.
Yeah.
Yep, yep.
Well, I don't every day of victory, I guess. All right. Well, Lydia, thank you for joining us. Andy is going to stay on. Max Bayer is going to join us for our final section as we wrap things up and look down to Washington. I had a pick that I'm doing in the seat of our manufacturing and UK reporter Anna Brown, who's not here, but has observed that the UK has just gotten beaten up by the pharma industry this year. They are certainly on our losers list for the blows that they have taken. Tons and tons of pressure from the pharma industry, projects getting put on hold or uncertain status. It has been an interesting year of geopolitical competition in the industry. But Max, all right, man. You and I have been in the trenches this year. We've been working hard together, editing your stories and your scoops, covering the Marty Makary and Vinay Prasad buddy comedy at the FDA. I think we called them a winner just by virtue of like their survival, throughout the year. I mean, good God, what a year it's been at the FDA.
Yeah. Where to begin? I mean, I think like we have here like loser FDA staff, winner Marty Makary and Vinay Prasad. I think that feels very apt. If you speak to folks close to the agency who are not in leadership positions, it's been nothing but turmoil since the beginning of the year. There have been people who have left, who've been fired, who've been placed in weird posts that they don't seem to fit in, almost as a way to boot them out or to have them resign. Marty Makary, despite I think a rumor mill about his job security in the last 6 weeks is still there. Vinay obviously left and came back, ceremoniously. I mean, Zach, our colleague Zach, tweeted out when Vinay left that there was a legitimate sign put up at White Oak, like celebrating its departure. I mean, what
The
the
good boy,
hell?
goodbye Wonder Boy sign.
Goodbye, Wonder. I
Yeah,
mean,
a little
like
a little workplace bullying.
it's been the kind of year where like that somehow is like under the radar, like, but for an agency like the FDA, for folks who have reported on that or have been aware, I mean, this used to be the most mundane agency. Like I remember trying to just eke out from press staff like 5 minutes of a heads up on like a COVID vaccine approval. You couldn't get it. Like, and so it's just wild,
Yeah.
like what's leaking, what's going on, how frustrated people are, it's been madness. But I think it's right to say that like Marty and Vinay win because they've stayed,
Yeah.
and their
Andy,
edicts continue.
Andy, I mean, you've been doing this a while. I mean, have you seen anything like what we're seeing in Washington in your years of covering this industry?
No, that's the short answer. No. I think anyone who's like, oh yeah, we've been through this before is the hallucinating.
Yeah.
Like, this is new. This is all new. It's a new year. It'll be a new year in 2026 too. Yeah.
We also have on our list this year, I believe we cheekily put down private jets, because
Yeah.
as Max, as you chronicled, the pharma trips down to Washington to negotiate with the Trump administration have been, I believe, upwards of 150 of those as they've been flying down to try and negotiate these MFN deals. And we're not done with that yet. Do you think the pharma industry came out of that stuff as a winner?
Totally, totally. We could also put Teterboro Airport maybe as a winner, specifically Westchester Airport.
That's my local hub.
You're in the logs,
But
Max.
I
He's in the
fly
logs.
scheduled, as they say.
Wow, we're learning a lot about Drew's travel habits. Yeah, I think pharma came out pretty unscathed. When I've been talking to people recently, and this is, I think, not to sort of like get away from the question, but something I think we're going to want to watch for in 2026 is like biotech versus pharma. And I think that like that difference has really sort of spawned out of the IRA. We're getting some thumbs up in the chat for that. Yeah, I think like pharma came out relatively unscathed. The companies that received these letters, these 17 companies have received a blueprint for how to escape the potential tariffs through these MFN deals. When you have heard senior administration officials talk about it, they've made clear that they've wanted companies to voluntarily come to the table, which means you couldn't take a machete to their earnings or their bottom lines, or else they knew that shareholders would react negatively, and then no one else would come to the table. So it was a fine line that admin officials have had to walk, and I think they've done all in all a pretty good job of that. We'll see what comes tomorrow when we're expecting a number of more deals as we reported yesterday. But like, you know, to hear like Albert Bourla discuss it on his guidance call and all these CEOs, like what these accomplish is some confidence in what they can take into next year and getting an overhang away. That always matters with investors. But biotech isn't in the same position. You're a small biotech, say you're Alnylam or something. Like you don't exactly know where you stand. You're a north of $100 billion market cap company. You have approved medicines. Where are you in the tariff conversation? And so I think that there's like a whole pocket of like relatively large companies that maybe don't hit that large pharma category, that maybe aren't on the radar, which like on one hand might be a good thing, but on the other hand, are you still subject to some of these incoming policies that you can't negotiate your way out of? Who knows? Maybe they're negotiating right now. The Vertexes of the world, like I could go on, but I think
Yeah.
those companies that maybe sit in a bit of a more like uncertain seat than Pfizer, Lilly, Novo, the rest of them.
Well, I want to bring everybody back on for our final winner of the year, which I will happily say with a very strong shoulder dislocating back pat is us. We had a hell of a year here at Endpoints News. We broke a bunch of big stories. We won some awards, and I think most of the time we had a pretty good time doing it. We're all tired. We are all ready for a break. For those of you who get our newsletters, we're going to go dark between Christmas and New Year's and let people like Kyle and Max and Lele and Andy and the entire rest of our newsroom here, including editors like Lydia and myself, recharge and rest and take a break and see our families. But thank you all so much for reading. These guys deserve it. 2 thumbs up for everybody here in this newsroom. And thank you all for watching. That is all the time we have for today. If you disagree with our picks, feel free to send me coal in the mail or leave it in the YouTube comments. We do want to hear from you. As a reminder, our team will be on the ground at JP Morgan next month. We have an amazing event. I'm going to be interviewing the CEO of Novo Nordisk. We're going to be talking about their future, what's going to be happening next. You can buy tickets for the 2-day event online now if you go over to endpoints.news and click over on the events tab. We'll also have interviews with Nobel laureate Fred Ramsell that Lele Wu is going to be doing. We're going to be talking to Bob Nelson from Arch, Eric Tokett from Centerview, and a ton of other people who you absolutely want to hear. The recording of today's conversation will be on YouTube. The audio will be up on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you're already signed up for our Post Talk newsletter, you'll get notifications when we have a new broadcast coming up. If you're not signed up, then you should be. Head over to Endpoints News. Then in the top right-hand corner, hit the reader profile link, then preferences, and then click to activate Post Talk. You can also follow us on X, on LinkedIn, on Blue Sky, on those podcast sites I mentioned, and just find us on the internet at endpoints.news. A massive and merry thank you to our producer, Nicole Wetzman, and our engineer, Dalen Turk. Happy holidays, and we will see you next time.